Okay. Awesome. I'm just waiting for it to go, and then we will have a look today. When you're doing everything on your laptop, you're controlling. Okay. All right. So we are live on YouTube as well. I'll send the link if anyone wants to listen to. So welcome once again to those that have joined. Thank you so much for joining. Today we're going to talk about understanding education in Ghana. And we have two amazing people in Ghana who have joined us, who are in education in Ghana, who understand education and will be able to answer our questions and also give us some insights on education in Ghana. We have Benedicta, and then we have George. But they will introduce themselves at some point. But for the first time as well, I have a co-host. I realized that sometimes I just feel that we need to, as a platform, I want to get other people involved. So for those of you that are on the platform, if you feel there's an area that you could run, please let me know. So today, I'm not going to be hosting it per se, or I have a co-host, so I'll be in the background. But we have Jackie Manu. Jackie is a former maths tutor in the UK. She taught GCSEs and has transitioned to become a business manager in project management. And she currently works at Capgemini. Again, just like myself and many of you here, she also has aspirations of moving to Ghana. So when this topic came about, I decided to throw it out to someone. And obviously, with her experience and exposure, I felt she would be the best person to host our session today. We also have Alice. Alice is also a project manager in Switzerland. She's also a guest. Alice has, from a parent's perspective, her son went to school in Ghana, so she's also going to share her experience with us. So thank you very much, guys. I can also see Justice. Justice is online. He's not a guest speaker, but he has a lot of experience as well. Justice has set up a school, a preschool in Ghana. He lives in the UK and uses the agile methodology to run the school in Ghana. So I'm sure he will have some insights for us. So without wasting much time, I will hand over to Jackie, who will do the introductions and run today's session. Over to you, Jackie.
Thanks for the opportunity, Kwame. Are we good with hearing me? Thumbs up. I think I can see Alice. Okay, I'm going to assume you can hear me. I think Kwame's given everyone a brief introduction enough, but I wanted to get 2 or 3 minutes from each of the guests today. So with George, in terms of what your current role is and what the education system is like in Lincoln School. Over to you, George, and then Benedicta will be next. This might be the typical issue of unmuting yourself.
Hi everyone, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
So my name is George Ababampo. Currently, I'm a PE teacher and then also the after school activities coordinator at the Lincoln Community School based in Accra, Ghana. So that's my full-time job here. Oh, should I elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so I'm a Ghanaian born, partly raised in the UK. I've been
Cut out a bit there.
These are some of the experience when we moved to Ghana, internet connectivity.
Yeah.
Ghana 10 years, mostly in sports program with the team. So that's been my, my role being here in 10 years. And I love it, every part of it. And being in Ghana is home. So I'm hoping to share my experiences through the educational route. And yes, happy to answer questions when it gets to that.
Can you elaborate? Oh, sorry, George.
Go for it.
Can you elaborate a bit more on the demographics of the students in your school and also the parents, their background? And yeah, mainly that.
So Lincoln Community School is short LCS. It's a private school based in Accra. We have over 700 students. In regards to the nationalities, we have over 60 different nationalities at the school. Most of the population of students are from the expatriate community. So you're looking at the embassies, the international businesses, NGOs, and so forth. Then obviously we have Ghanaians and other African countries members at the school as well. In regards to the teaching staff, we do have a big population of expatriate teachers, and we also have a local hired teachers as well. Then our support staff is mainly made out of Ghanaians. In regards to Lincoln being an international school, so we are regarded as a leading international school in Africa. And we are part of the IB program. And in regards to what we do at the school, aside from the usual curriculum, we do have a strong presence when it comes to the extracurricular activities. So as part of being a balanced student and trying to obviously make sure students are learning at the school, we do sell a very all-embracing range of activities with our extracurricular activities. So, for example, we do have throughout the week, so Monday through to Friday. Then we also have an extensive program on Saturdays as well. So we have a Saturday Academy, which also gives more options for students to be able to engage themselves on the weekends too. So regarding how Lincoln also combines with the community as well, because it is called Lincoln Community School for a reason. So we do engage in CAS activities whereby the school goes beyond working in partnership with communities around, initiating projects to support and learn from each other. An example would be Lincoln closely works with Joe Liu Special School, whereby they engage in after-school activities programs and go about with projects where the students from our school can also learn and share their experiences alongside also doing so with them as well. So we do work very well with the communities around us. So from my personal experience and from my 10 years working at Lincoln, I've been able to engage in activities beyond the country, because we are also part of as part of our athletics program, we are part of the WASOL group, which is the West African International Schools Activities League, whereby we compete with other international schools in 6 different African countries, mostly within the West African region. So that's how we are able to extend our learning beyond the borders. So as a whole, Lincoln is a very active and engaging school community, and has been for many, many years, alongside the other private schools like GIS, RIM, SOS, TIS, and so forth.
Thank you, George. Over to you now, Benedicta, in terms of where you work, the school you work in, the type of system they use, and the demographics of the teachers and the parents and students as well. Thank you, Benedicta. You're on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I work in a private school, not an international like George, but I'm in a way midway between the government system and the international system. It's a private school, but it's under the Catholic Education Unit. And we run solely the GES syllabus. The GES syllabus, just like you find in the government schools. In terms of demographics, we're about 500 in population, and about half of the population is from the church of the school population. So it's mostly a church school. It's located at Adenta. And yeah, George spoke about a lot of community engagements and stuff, but what we do in terms of that is with other Catholic schools. We do competitions with them, sports and music and church activities. Yeah, so that's just a brief about what we do.
Thanks, Benedicta. And Alice is a parent of a student who who's schooled in Ghana. If you can tell us about the journey briefly, Alice. And also, if you have any questions, you can write it in the chat section as well, so we can ask it later.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So yes, so it was in the early 2000s. I was looking for a school for my son in Ghana, based on the fact that I felt that he was being unfairly evaluated in Germany, where we were living back at the time. And I actually didn't have a lot of time to look for schools. So I just went with the first recommendation that I had, and that was the John Tay Memorial School. So my son at that time was 8 years old, and he had just completed the second grade. And so I went to Ghana. I went to look at the school. I spoke with the headmaster, and there were three things that were actually important for me. The first one being that I wanted the actions and the principles of the school to be, embedded in the Word of God, because that was how I grew up, and I thought that it was, a good foundation to have. I also wanted him to be able to play music instruments. And I was also looking for, because he was at the time, he was 8, I also wanted to have a school where there was like a caregiver type of thing. So they did have that, and that is what actually convinced me to send him to Ghana for the next 6 years, actually.
Okay, I'm going to start asking questions now. And again, if you have any questions to ask, please fire away via the chat box or just interrupt when convenient. Alice, I wanted to ask you about the caregiving system. What was it, and did it meet your expectations in terms of the supports they gave?
Oh yeah, well, it absolutely did, because I chose to let him go to the boarding school because I didn't want my family to have the extra burden of caring for a child. So so the caregiver system that they had, you had something like a mother. So it was a woman that was a bit older, and she had, I think, between 5 to 8 children that she took care of. So she would basically, do their laundry, cook for them, anything that a mother would normally do. So we had a very lovely woman by the name of Auntie Georgette, and she basically was there for Kevin when he was in the school. So he would actually, look at his, see to it that he did his homework, that his uniforms were clean, get his stuff together when he needed, because for my son, when he was going to Ghana, he also didn't speak English or any Ghanaian language. So the first couple of months were a bit challenging, but 2 months after I had actually sent him, when I went to Ghana, he was already speaking English. So that was already a big relief. So yes, so this caregiver system, I think the mothers will stay with their children until they are 10 or 11, so they can actually do stuff on their own. And yeah, actually it was something that I very, very much appreciated, because it gave me this peace of mind being away from him, and I really appreciated that.
Okay, moving on to languages. I would like my daughter to speak and be literate in the language, but then also I wouldn't want to immerse her into the language. And just for clarity, could you, Benedicta and George, if you could let us know the difference between the language of instruction with governmental schools. So language of instruction being that although you may teach tree in the school, you don't teach the lesson. So maths wouldn't be taught in tree, it would be taught in English, or is that the case? And then if I wanted my daughter to be well-rounded and be able to speak tree, what's the best system? Is it that I throw her into the deep end and take her to ensure that she goes to a school where the language of instruction is tree, or will it suffice if they just do extra classes like how we do Spanish and other European languages in England as lessons, or as lessons? So Benedicta and George, please.
I'll go first. I don't really have a personal experience in working in a government school. I did go to a government private. I went to private primary school. So I've never personally had an experience where I was learning the local dialect through the educational system. So maybe that's not an area where I can answer. But I know if you're looking at migration, whereby we're trying to get our young children to learn the local language, from what I'm seeing now, is just through more of the family route. So learning from your auntie, your parent, your uncles. Also, what people are doing now is taking private lessons. That's a trend I'm seeing more often now. The same way people are taking private lessons to learn the Spanish, German, or French. I think that's a different thing I've seen, which is a common trend now, as opposed to trying to learn it through the education system, because the curriculum is delivered in English. So if you do want to learn it through a different language, a local language, then I think that's where the extra kind of responsibility comes on the parent to find ways and means to ensure that happens separately. So maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that the national curriculum is delivered in English.
George, can I just ask you a question? If I was to send my daughter to Lincoln or the other big schools that have a heavy amount of expats, would it mean that they wouldn't do extra local language classes? So would they offer French and Spanish, then they might not offer Tree or Ga? Or is that the case? Not the case?
At Lincoln, at Tree is not part of the languages taught at the school. So it's the usual French, obviously English for that as a second language, being taught to the second language students, and then you have your French and your Spanish. But in regards to learning Tree, we have the teacher who is teaching the humanities may find a way to have the students learn a bit of the Ghanaian culture. So mostly with a private school, they learn the language or the phrases through the teaching of the culture, as opposed to teaching the language. So that's what happens at Lincoln, for example. So through the Ghanaian culture, you do learn some Ghanaian phrases and here and there.
Okay. How does it differ with you, Benedicta?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, in my school, we have 2 periods of tree language. The tree teacher comes in and the whole lesson is in tree. From the greeting, the whole interaction with the teacher is in tree. That's 2 periods per week. And depending on the location, the Ghanaian language may be different. So mostly in another, let's say a more Ga community, you find that their local language in school there is Ga. And the tree to their variations, we have the Kwapim tree and the Asante tree. And so I think in the other regions as well, they learn the language there as their Ghanaian language option over there. But when I was in school, I learned Ga. my area was a Ga-dominated area. I got to add up my Ga from my own tribe and the people I interacted with. I learned Twi too also from the people I interacted with. So if you are looking to teach your children local languages, some people have their nannies and their house helps also helping with interacting with the children in Twi, because the school lessons may not be enough. In addition to, you can take a private teacher to come home as well to add on to that. But in the Ghanaian system, the GES system, there is always a local language as part of the subjects that they learn from basic 1 to JHS 3, and they write it in the BEC as well. So that's the system in the GES and the private and the government schools. They always have a Ghanaian language option. I think for even bigger schools, they have the Ga and the Twi. So the child chooses the option that they want. But my school, we only offer the Equiapim Twi. So if your child goes into the government system, the child is likely to pick one of the languages as a main subject that will be graded in the BEC. Then in the semi, that is a private school too, they always have the Ghanaian language option. So that's how it is, yeah.
Okay then. And Alice, to you, so how did you find your son coming back? He's now back.
Yeah.
How is he regarding the language and the culture, having spent so long there?
So fortunately for him, he could choose. I think he also had the option to choose between Ga and Twi, and he chose Twi. So I was actually quite glad that he did. Sorry, what was your question again?
So how has it benefited him having moved to Ghana and picking up language? Is he fluent or is he still?
Oh yeah. He's fluent. Well, yeah, he's fluent. Nobody's very fluent in this family in Twi, but yeah, we mix it up. But yeah, we do understand each other.
Okay then. The next question I had was the curriculum. So George, you mentioned the IB, the International Baccalaureate. A lot of schools in the UK are now moving to. I understand that this is an international platform. So imagine if I or someone on the platform was from America, for example, and wanted to spend a few years in Ghana, but definitely wanted their children to go to university in the US or back home or international. Is there a setback? Do they have to come back to their country and then repeat a year? My brother had that issue, I don't know if he's online, but whereby sometimes the qualifications don't match up and then they have to then maybe waste a year doing foundation courses, or is that now changed whereby the curriculum and the exams now reflect international standards, or you pick ones that is internationally recognized? Someone mentioned the Cambridge curriculum. I'm not sure what Benedicta your school uses, but if you can tell me the difference or tell us the difference, that'd be great. So Benedicta, you first.
As I said, am I still on? No, okay.
No,
as I said, we only run the GES curriculum. No other international curriculum in addition.
I'm not fully aware of it. So the GES curriculum is the Ghana education system.
Yeah.
Yes. Is there a hindrance, or is it the same as the others? So international, is it internationally recognized, or are there big major differences? So for example, GCSE English, which is what they take in the equivalent to O levels, there are certain criteria that people have to meet. But then there are equivalents with BTEC, there are equivalents with the IB. So maybe if you have 9 GCSEs, it would equate to X amount of or points of IB. Do you know how the Ghanaian education system equates if somebody wanted to go to university with that? Or is it just JSS there?
I haven't really compared the certificates, but I do realize that after the BEC, that is JHS 3, or in international system, it will be grade, I think 12 or 10. I can't really get it. But you realize that by the time they're going to the secondary school, it can be compared to I'm not really sure about the comparisons, but you do realize that it's like when you're going to the university, at first it used to be 4 years. Now they have lengthened the secondary school and made the secondary school 4 years and the university 3 years. So in making the secondary school 4 years and the university 3 years, it's like they're trying to compare it with a bit of the international standard. As I said, I'm not really sure about the comparisons. But when someone finishes BEC, it's like the person is out of high school. That is if you're in the US. Then when you're going on to the,
Senior.
I think the senior high school, for that, I can't really tell. But I think there are a bit of differences. I think it doesn't just smoothly, you can't just smoothly go into another system. So I think mostly some people write exams. That's a norm here. When you're in Ghana, you want to probably go to the university outside, you have to write some international exams before you can. That is if you were in the GES system totally. But if you had a bit of international add-on, I'm sure maybe you can just go in. But in just the GS, you have to top up. You can't just enter the university like that.
Okay, then sure. Just for clarification, can you confirm the difference between GES and BEC?
Oh, BEC is
what the other options are.
BEC is a West basic. I think it's like it's in a way like end of the school exam that is organized in the whole country for those entering the secondary school system in Ghana.
Okay.
I don't know if I've made myself. Certificate exams. It's a certificate exams that when you get it, you are able to go on to the secondary school. Yes.
Right.
And after that is the WASI. That one is a West African certificate examination. That is run in other West African countries.
Oh, okay,
and they usually write, yes, on a common timetable and all that.
Right, okay then. Okay. George, just over to you in regards to students. Obviously they're expats. I'm assuming a lot of them return back or go to other countries as well where their parents have to work. So how is that transition with those kids?
So from what I know, so the IB is obviously recognized around the world, being an international baccalaureate. So an example is if someone is in grade 12 in the IB system, that's equivalent to someone being in year 13 in England. So what the IB program does is such that students who are part of the IB program can go straight to the university. There's no need to take additional exams to do that. But what I do know is some parents that have shared with me is that if they want their children to go back to their native country, they look into what the curriculum is, and sometimes it's not to take additional exams to be able to kind of fit in back into the system. But I know that mostly for the secondary school level, but not for university. So the IB is recognized. So I don't know much about how other private schools have that experience, but I know from the Lincoln standpoint, most of our students immediately after grade 12, they go straight into university system without the need to take additional exams to fit into that program. But being an international school obviously allows some adaptation. So I know if a student moves from the UK to Ghana, they had a different program to what Lincoln is offering. But if they go to GIS, it's a different program being offered at GIS. So it's just, I guess, where you find yourself and how it allows you to adapt to that current state to allow you to then progress through the program to be able to get into the higher level of education.
Thank you, George. Alice mentioned that she picked the school for her son based on recommendation, so she didn't look much, but the recommendation was good enough. If someone moves, generally in the UK, you buy a house or a house, you look at the schools around, you type in your postcode, and they give you the schools. And I think in America, you have to go based on the vicinity and the proximity to the school. But how does it work in Ghana? How do you also find good schools? So if I wanted, being ignorant, I only know a few good schools, but I want my child to go to GIS, but then I live really far. Are there other equivalents? How do I find it? Is there a directory of schools in the local area? So someone mentioned they live in Solom. How would they find a good school close by, or must they know somebody? I'll throw that to Benedicta. So how would I find a good school for my child?
Okay, before I answer that, concerning the BEC, it's a certificate examination that we write when you are leaving basic school to the secondary school. So the full meaning is Basic Education Certificate Examination. So that's the qualification you need to enter the secondary school system in Ghana. Now back to your question. It's mainly on proximity. So proximity or referrals or recommendations from people, basically that. But then if you, it's purely on recommendations. But we do have a list of schools, basic schools, secondary schools, private schools. There's a list out there. I think you can find that online. But I think your best bet is the referral or the recommendations from friends and family, or going to the school to have a tour yourself. That's, yeah. But we don't have that system that you just key in some information and everything comes as it is out there. So mainly on recommendations and referrals, and you yourself going out there to have a look for yourself.
If a parent has a really bright child, generally scholarships are offered for secondary schools in most countries. So for expensive fee paying schools, is that the case in Ghana? I want to throw that to George. If my child is exceptionally bright in a musical instrument, can that get her in and give her either a bursary or some form of scholarship to reduce the fees for the school? George.
Well, Lincoln has a scholarship program. We have a scholarship program which is named after our former head of school. So it's called the Dr. Larkin Scholarship Program. So the idea behind that is tapping into the GES system. So that the criteria for that is you have to be someone who is learned, and obviously you have to meet the point system, which I can't really think of it right now. So that this has been running for 4 years. So there's 2 slots for the last 2 years of high school. So students are so students can be recommended by any local staff. It's also advertised in the Ghana newspapers and also in the media. The idea is to obviously provide a scholarship for a very talented student. So there's a placement for a boy and a girl to finish the last 2 years at the school. With a scholarship that comes obviously some benefits in regards to technology. So students will always be equipped with a laptop, and also they do receive some bursaries for international trips. So the idea is supporting students who are great, but maybe might not have the platform to elevate. And I know that 2 years ago, one of those students were handpicked by the Ivy schools in the US. So I mean, it made the news, and it was brilliant to hear that success story, for example. But in regards to being a musician or being talented in sports, Lincoln doesn't run such scholarship programs. It's solely academics. Now, going back to how do people in the diaspora find out about good schools in Ghana? The biggest marketing tool here is word of mouth. So, referrals are very key. I know, for example, it's mostly through the parents and through the organizations that bring their kids to the school. And then there's a tour program whereby you can even go on a website, there's a tour, a video tour, or you can come in personally and actually see for yourself. So the idea is, once you come for a tour, you see the school environment, you see the learning environment as well, and then obviously you make it for yourself. But I went into Lincoln without knowing anything. After my tour, I fell in love with the school. So sometimes those are the areas where the school is able to market into international market as well. So word of mouth referrals, recommendations are highly recommended for international schools. And in regards to proximity as well, I know there's a growing trend of private schools coming up, and most private schools are also moving in IB as well. So I know, for example, if you haven't heard of Ryan International School, it's a school that is also booming at the moment, alongside GIS, Lincoln. There's British International School, there's Roman Race. So there's quite a few private schools and international schools within Accra. But in regards to other regions, let's say the Ashanti region, Western region, I don't know much about those regions, but I know there's a private school in Marseille. Aside from that, I don't really know how it is in other regions of Ghana, but I know when it comes to Greater Accra, there's a growing number of international private schools within the East Legon area, Belempe Airport, and Tema as well. So,
yeah, thank you for that. A cheeky plug: Justice has a very good school, and he has spaces for preschool years 1 and years 1 to 3. So if you want, holler at him. He's dropped his number online in the chat, only for business purposes. So I wanted to move on to a few questions. We're pressed for time. Special educational needs. So if somebody has a child who just needs that extra care, and oftentimes it could be that they want a reduced number of classes, or they want to ensure there's a teaching assistant there, whether the child has hearing impairments, is on the autistic spectrum, or dyslexic, dyspraxic, all those that they just need, not that they can't achieve what everyone else can, but they just need that extra care, extra support, extra liaison with the parent as well. Is that there for the parents? I'm going to throw that to George again.
100%. With the private schools, I know that is a big part of their program, and offering that services to parents. Especially knowing that if a kid requires I'll give an example. So in elementary school, an elementary school, let's say from pre-K to grade 5, each class has a teaching assistant. It's compulsory. So within that, if there's a student that requires additional support, either that kid has an additional adult who sits with them, moves around as they go through the various classes. So that's something that we did additional coming from the school to ensure that they have the number of hours they need in the classroom and also away from the classroom. We do have a counseling program at the school as well. So there are additional support and I'm pretty sure other private schools as well allows for kids with additional needs to be able to be supported throughout their learning in early years. And when it comes to middle school, the secondary school, and high school, that system is also there. So there's a learning support team that takes 6-year-old to give that extra support that's needed, whether it's in math, whether it's in English, whether it's in the PE classroom, whatever it is that they might need extra support with, the school and gives that additional support. So I can't hear you.
Jackie, you're muted.
Sorry, I can't believe this happened to me. There's a question on there regarding bullying. So how is bullying, I want to throw this question to Benedicta in particular. How is bullying handled? Is it a culture of, oh, boys will be boys, or they'll toughen up, she just needs to man up, all those things? Or is it that if I complain and say my child says, even a teacher is being unfairly harsh on her because she thinks she should know it? Or how is the culture of bullying in Ghana handled? How is it handled? Benedicta.
Well, in my school, we don't really have very large numbers. So even before someone reports bullying or anything of that sort, I'm sure the teacher might have picked up little signals in class or something like that. But if that's something of that nature, or a very like a case we had some time ago, that one they were even playing and one student injured the other pupil. But I heard prior to that, the pupil had kept on saying he should stop it, he should stop it. He wasn't stopping, and I think he hit him with the back of a ruler or something. But then the parents were brought in, both parents were brought in, and he was given the medical care immediately before even the parents were brought in. And no, he was not. I think he was suspended for some time because he's a stubborn, he's a bit stubborn, known to be stubborn in the school. But that's to tell you that it all comes down to the supervision. If the teachers are really in touch with the students, I don't think it will be something so serious out there that nothing can be done about it. That's in my school. But in the government schools, I don't know about how the supervision is. I don't, because of the numbers, I don't know how much attention they pay to the complaints from the students. But as I said, my school is kind of a church school, so we really pay attention to the kids. Yeah. So I don't think any child can be continually bullied without being helped or assisted in any way.
Okay,
yeah,
that's reassuring to know. Alice, I've got a question for you. When I obviously Kwame said I was a teacher, but when my daughter first started school, I had a very big misconception about how primary schools teachers, the engagement or the involvement that a parent has to have with the child learning, as opposed to secondary school. I knew 100% about it and exactly what the parent should do. But I was really shocked when she went to school and how much I had to do. What were the misconceptions that you had as a parent who hasn't schooled in Ghana, and just the expectations, not saying it was negative, but just things that you didn't realize you had to do, or things that they didn't do, or things that they did do maybe positively? Obviously he lived in a boarding school, so that also might have been different for you.
Is that question for me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I did school in Ghana. I had my secondary school education in Ghana, so I knew how the Ghana system works. And well, you grow up especially when you go to a boarding school, you toughen up. You get bullied a bit, and you learn your lessons, and you toughen up. So we never actually had any issues in that aspect. That he felt like he was being bullied, or that a teacher was punishing him and he didn't understand why. So it was okay for us.
Okay, so George, I want to throw what with regards to, I understand yours is an expat school, so you'd have an array of different kind of parents. What are the things that you find parents have that are unrealistic, or sometimes maybe they have even low expectations for you? So I know that when I was teaching, having little experience with private school parents, it was as though they wanted to manage you, whereas state school parents, they were far removed. So it was either the extreme of being micromanaged by the parents or the extreme of having to encourage that parent to come on board with you. So what other experiences you've had with parents, and what advice, if I was bringing my child to Lincoln, would you say do and don't?
We have a strong PTO system at our school.
What's happening?
Very involved in the child's learning. There's a representation of the PTO at the school premises as well. So there's constant communication between the teacher, the administration, and the parents. In regards to the power the parents do have, they do have a little power in regards to what their expectations are, and it's mostly high expectations. But one thing we also have to understand as an international school is that we tend to have, having over 60 different nationalities means that the background of parents and kids are different, right? So what I expect from my child is different from what another parent might expect. So it's the school's responsibility to ensure that although these parents come from different homes, they have their different expectations, but how can an international school make sure that everyone's happy? And I know that making everyone happy is most challenging than being an administrator at an international school, but the school does well to involve the parents in any way they can to ensure that what's happening is that the learning is optimal, and the teachers are also meeting the standards, the school's meeting the standards, because the school fees, the annual tuition fees is not a joke. So definitely it has to be something that has to be taken care of. So to answer that question, the PTO have a strong presence at the school, and their involvement also is quite strong as well.
Yeah. Thank you. With all that's going on regarding child abuse and things like that, and knowing that in the West at times, although they don't do it well, there is some form of background check with teachers when they are employed with criminal record, but they're looking out for any kind of child abuse in any form, or any illicit behavior there. How would I put my fear at rest if my child had a male coach like yourself, George? And to be rest assured, because she has a tennis coach, I'm not saying that I trust because he has a DBS, which is a criminal record check. I'm a little bit relieved that I know that he hasn't had a criminal record with that, but with Ghana, it might not be there or as stringent as, as an honest. How do I rest assured that I'm covered to some extent? You can never be too sure, you can never be safe, but to the best of my ability, how do I as a parent ensure that the school are employing people that are not child offenders, sex offenders? Benedicta, since yours is a government, sorry, is a private school, but more for Ghanaians there, and the majority of the teachers, I'm assuming, will be 100% Ghanaian. If you could answer that, how do you ensure that there are no child offenders in any way in the school? Not that you're the head teacher.
When you're employed, you're employed based on word of mouth from maybe your reference that is called in at some point, but there's no real check for the criminal record as it is out there. So it's just kind of hoping for the best here, hoping that nothing goes wrong. Yeah, that's it. That is not, the criminal record check is not there.
That's the honest truth.
It's not there till something happens. Yeah.
Wow. Yes, it's good to be honest, which I think for me, that would be one of my fear factors, because I would want my child to be free with a teacher, just at least knowing that I've done my due diligence as a parent, which you can never fully do, but by the grace of God. Alice, how was that for you, knowing that you've left your son and he's actually sleeping with strangers and not with a family member? Not to say that family members can't do the same thing, but how do you ensure that? These are questions that were asked.
Okay, so that was the reason why for me, I was actually very happy that we had this caregiver at the school, because if anything, this was the first reference point for him. And, you know, and then she would then report it or escalate it upward. So that was for me, what gave me, you know, that peace of mind. But I have to say that, you know, generally when as a parent, when you decide to go this route and you know that you're going to be in another continent and your child is going to be in Ghana, the time that the child is away, you are just not at peace. I can guarantee that. So, you know, whoever decides to go this route, it's a very challenging. It's going to be very challenging, especially as a parent, because you will never have that 100% peace of mind, knowing that the child is not sleeping under the same roof as you are.
Thanks for your honesty there. Just a few more questions before we round up. The impact of COVID. So obviously every school has adjusted and everyone's doing the best they can. How has the school adjusted? And also there are plans for September reopening. What have you seen? I've seen Harrow University or Harrow College, they've advertised their online learning for sixth form already. And they're branding it as, we're now a global sixth form. So you can come, obviously, because that's a good tactic for them to use. But Benedicta, how has your school adjusted as a school who maybe are not getting the funding and backing as much as, for example, George's school, who parents are paid around $30,000 US, so they have the funding to buy extra facilities, but with normal fees from your school, Benedicta, how have you found the change, and what do you think the future will be like for you and your schools?
Well, my school is a private school, but it is in a way supported by the church. So as was realized in the other purely private schools, that immediately schools were closed down, most of the teachers were not paid and all that. That is the month after. We were a bit pushing for 2 months before they called us in for a pay cut. So we've been having the pay cut. That's in terms of salaries. But in terms of teaching or engaging the children, we have this, we use the Google Classroom to post materials, short videos, and questions, assignments for the kids to do, give them a deadline. Then they submit their assignments. So that's how we've been engaging the kids for now.
Okay, thank you. George, one thing I look at with schools when I was applying, or even with work in general, is retention. How I judge a school and the management system and the ease of how, if teachers are comfortable, then they're comfortable to teach and comfortable to have fun with children, which is what they're there for as well. What's the retention of staff like in your schools, or are people just passing through, particularly the fact that it's international? Are they just ticking the box of, I'm a teacher, I want to have that feel of international teaching in Africa, that's on my bucket list? Those are the things I would look out for, and I would want, if I'm keeping my child there for 5 years, I'd want some form of consistency or the culture of consistency in the school, not that, there's a turnover of 10 teachers every year or so. How is it like with you in your school? Not just you, but the culture of your school and international schools in general.
I mean, from my opinion, international schools are built with that in mind, that there's always going to be a turnover. So there's always going to be a change every 2 to 3 years. In regards to the teachers, local staff, the local staff tends to be there for X amount of years. I know a long servant was 28 years. So you tend to find local teachers who make about 20 to 30% the teaching staff tend to stay there much longer. With the expatriate teachers, you're looking at average between 3 years. There's always a changeover. But that's what makes the international school what it is, because they're built on change. Just, the idea of students, not just the staff, but the students are always moving as well, based on their parents' contracts. They might be in Ghana for 2 years, some are there for 4 years. So it's a combination of the students' parents and the teaching staff as well. There's always a changeover happening. So it's something that we're used to. And I guess those who are in the international industry understand that change and why there's a need for change. That's
pretty good to know. I don't think that's really one of my tick lists or the tick X on the spot with schools. But how would that Lincoln compare with somewhere like GIS or SOS? They are kind of up there. But is there some form of, because I find that people have this alumni, which they don't have in the UK, or I think maybe in America they have, and they're in the same WhatsApp group. They don't have to know each other, but there'll be 200 people and old school leavers, class of 2000, and they're donating, class of 2000, like those who graduated in the year 2000, and they're donating money to their alma mater. That's not really a culture in the UK with regular schools where there's that bond because of the year group. It's more so we're friends or friends of friends. So, and I thought I've always kind of been jealous of that you have that camaraderie with each other and that association. So that means that you at Lincoln School don't really get that, since the kids are just literally in transit or passing by until their parents' next post. How does that compare with, maybe not too extreme, but how does that compare with others like GIS and the others there that are on your caliber?
I'll probably say, the beauty of being in international school, private school in Ghana is a small community. So the students are always hanging out, whether it's through the sports program, whether it's through some competitions that they might be involved in. But there's that unity that we see amongst international schools students. It's the international school, but also the private schools. So, the social life in Ghana is an example where there's not that many places to hang out. They tend to meet each other all the time. So they build that rapport amongst themselves. And obviously, you're right, the alumni program is quite big. At Lincoln, I know for a fact that we have an office. Most of the alumni are based around Europe, and in America as well. So it's quite big. I'm not big in Ghana. I don't know if I'm making sense. Whereas GIs might have a strong presence of alumni in Ghana, based in Ghana. You might tend to find a lot of GI students going to the university in the US or parts of the world, but most of them are coming back home to either start their business or work in Ghana. So the presence of alumni in Ghana, mostly when you see the Ghana International School, with Ghana International School, as opposed to with Lincoln Community School. But Lincoln Community Schools also has a strong presence of Lebanese community as well. And most of the Lebanese community are actually based and living in Ghana. So there's also that presence as well. From my experience, that's what I've observed along the line of, how students are, keeping in touch and staying connected as well.
Just two quick questions. One for Benedicta regarding the difference between, just to relieve my ignorance, the difference between obviously Georgia School is an international school and they're fee paying in dollars. And then there is the private school and the governmental school. The governmental school is free now, well, from the majority. But if I'm sending my child to your school, do I run the risk of the up and downs with the governmental schools being free and there's an oversubscription of them? And what exactly is the difference? So is it because simply it's funded by somebody else, but is there some form of governmental input or control that you have to adhere to as well? If that makes sense.
So if I get you right, you're asking if the government comes into instruct us concerning how we run the school. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, and also just mainly the difference between government and private. So just so we all know the difference, because like public school in the US is different from public school in the UK. Some are fee paying, some are not. So is it 100% fee paying, and what control do the school have as opposed to the government? How many kids are also paying? Is it 100% with a few scholarships here and there, similar to George's school?
Well, with a private school, there's the owners of the school have the sole right to charge any fees that they want to. The government doesn't come in to cap any, put a cap on any amount they take, because they run it as a business. So in recent times with the COVID and all that, some private schools were even calling on government for their support. But I heard another side that the governments were saying when they were charging their exorbitant school fees, they were not there. So why should they come in now to help you in these difficult times? But that's to say the other private schools, they charge whatever they want to charge. And the government school is free up to the SHS now. Yes, the secondary schools, up to secondary school, it's free. But with the private school, you pay. But with my school being under a Catholic education unit, it's a bit subsidized, not as much as the one-man schools or the single-owned other private schools. I don't know if you get it. So I'm kind of in between. Yeah.
Okay then.
And in terms of, there's a bit of supervision also from GES to make sure that if you are teaching the GES curriculum, you're going according to how to plan your lessons, how teachers conduct. There are some, once in a while, supervision from the Ghana Education Service.
Okay,
So
that was my last question. In terms of, in this country, Ofsted is every teacher's nightmare. Not that they're not doing good, but it's the official like body for schools, and a school can be broken down. A school can, just through one visit that's negative, the school can be misjudged and graded, and the grades last for 4 years if it's regular, and then 2 years if it's outstanding, because they want to come back and maintain it. So you just mentioned that there is a body there, but George, how free and liberal are international schools, since they are not a Ghanaian school and nor are they following another country's system? How free are they to govern themselves, whether good or bad? And then as a parent, how do I ensure that somebody else is monitoring them and not just myself? So if their standards are good, how do I know? Am I just basing it on their results? But then results can be forged in so many ways. What governing body governs your schools and other international schools?
So we have two bodies. So I have a learning council, and also ACE, which is African International Schools Association. So we belong to an entity for Africa, so African School.
So George, could you repeat those two bodies that you mentioned, please, because you cut out?
So we have ASA, and then we have the Learning Council as well. So in regards to, so ASA, I believe, is the African International Schools Association. So obviously we have to meet that standard. And then when you did say about, even though Lincoln is an international school and it doesn't have to, I know we don't follow the GES system, we do have to abide by the law of Ghana as well. So, for example, when the COVID issue came into Ghana, the school had to obviously follow the guidelines laid by the government of Ghana. We couldn't run our own, run a school on our own because we don't belong to the Ghana system. We still had to run under the restrictions of the government. So we had to close down when it was closed down. So I think Lincoln also does follow the laws of Ghana. Although we run with the embassies too, it doesn't mean that we are isolated from Ghana as well. So as a parent, the question is, as a parent, how do you know if the school is being governed or kind of watched over by schools? So that's why being part of IB as an international world school body, we we are also part of the African school body as well, and that's how Lincoln stays. What's the word?
Governed-ish, regulated.
Regulated. There we go.
Okay. Okay, final words from each and every one of you. So Alice with a different hat, being a parent, Benedicta with a different hat, being from a school with 100% locals, which I was talking to a friend and they mentioned that they wouldn't necessarily want their child to be the only kid that is international. So hence why they would want that kind of international school, just to avoid someone picking on them like, oh, your daddy B or whatever it is, since they're the only one from Abuchi. Whereas, and then George, you've got the other end whereby the majority are actually not Ghanaian, and most people would send their children back because they want that cultural immersion, which they wouldn't get in your school. So what are the final words that you would all have? Ladies first, I'll start with Benedicta.
Final words in
London, yeah, to Ghana.
Hello?
Sorry, I interrupted you. So for final words for parents bring their kid to Ghana with them.
Oh, what you said about the child being picked on, I doubt that will be the situation. People would rather try to be closer to the child. So I think that should be the least of your worries. And yes, the private system is also very cool. What is the difference between the private and the purely government schools is there's more supervision in the private schools. So if not even up to George's school standard, we are very supervised by the owners of the school. Then the GES also comes in. So, and there's sort of a competition in private schools to perform well. So they all ensure that the kids are well taught. If they have to add on in extra classes and all that, they do that. So I don't think it's so scary bringing a child from out there to a private or a government school. The government school, depending on the area, but your best bet would be a private or the international system like in George's school. So I don't think it's that scary or it's that not encouraging to bring your child here. I think it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Thank you. Over to you, Alice. Your final words.
Okay, so my final words is that definitely I'm glad, and also years later, speaking to my son about it, we're really glad that we chose this path. It was definitely for him the right decision, and also from what or the lessons that I learned is that as a parent, you're much more scared, to send your child to Ghana than they actually are. He, until today, says that he had a lot of fun. That was the best years of his life so far. So, give it a go. Give it a go. And I think for me as well, and as a parent, I'm proud that although he was born abroad, now he really embraces our core values, being African. And I think that, that's something that you just cannot, achieve when you're living outside the country. And when he came back, it was very easy for him to integrate back into the system as well, into the German education system.
That's a good point. Thank you. George, over to you.
Just to tap onto what Alice said as well, the core values of being an African is important, knowing that when they're coming back home, they get the best of both. I believe that Ghana is better off now than it was 10 years ago. Yes, there's room for improvement in the education system, but whether being Lincoln or being a private school or being a government, I think as a parent, it's worth investment to actually do your own research or even do recommendations or referrals to dive a little bit deeper into knowing what is it you're looking for, and also have that room to understand that it's not going to be the perfect scenario, but yeah, it's also going to be a place where you know they're going to get a discipline, they're going to get that homely feel, they're going to feel wanted and appreciated as well. Ghana is home. That's the number one thing. Then the education system it needs to be, it needs, but I don't think it's as bad as it was 10 years ago. So we have moved forward. Ghana's moved forward in the education system. There is a lot of private schools coming out here and there, and I will encourage anyone coming home to have a peace of mind knowing that there is room for you in the education system.
Thank you all three of you. I'm going to give a cheeky plug once again. So Benedicta's school is St. John the Evangelist Catholic School, since we said that word of mouth is the biggest form of marketing for schools in Ghana. So St. John the Evangelist Catholic School in Adenta. You have great teachers such as Benedicta, and then you've got the great Lincoln Community School in Abilimpit, where you have George as the extracurricular guru, football coach guru, taking his kids all the way to South Africa and beyond. And then you also have, I can't remember if they've gone to South Africa, correct me if I'm wrong. And then you have him as the PE teacher as well. So you're in good hands. And lastly, you have Justice Workman, who's in the group, who has dropped his contact details. He has his own private school as well. So do check them all out if you have the time. Thank you all for coming to this session. Thank you, Kwame, again for the opportunity. The next session will be on in 2 weeks' time, same place, in your living rooms. It will be on them versus us, if there's such a thing, or if there is a thing, and the differences people face when they go back to Ghana. You assume, we're all Ghanaian, me, I'm Ashanti. Are you? When you go there, do they see you as one of them, or do they see you as the one that's come from the abroad? And also, what can you learn from them? And sometimes some people have that white savior mentality where they're coming to Ghana to make a change because everyone doesn't know what they're doing there, or they don't bleed with the same pain when they see things or injustice going on there. So there'll be 2 lovely ladies coming on, so do stay tuned for that and keep the engagement up. And for those who are new to the platform, we have a WhatsApp group that we are communicating about things, sharing ideas in the typical WhatsApp group, but we heavily monitor it, so there's no COVID conspiracies in the group for sure. But thank you once again. I'm going to pass it over to Kwame. Thank you as well for the lovely guests, Alice, George, and Benedicta. Greatly appreciated. Thanks. Back to Kwame.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I think we need to have Jackie on as our permanent host. I actually first time enjoyed the program, but I think it's so awesome. I wrote a few notes here. Thank you so much, Jackie. And as she said, the next session is on the 1st of August, and it's them and us. So, sometimes, even as ourselves, when we go back home on holidays, sometimes you feel that, it's a very difficult thing. And sometimes you have to, pinch yourself, from, believing that you are better than some of them down, back home. So we're going to have a conversation with 2 people who basically share their insights on, you have people that have lived here that are now in Ghana, so that we can understand it a bit more, because, we've been here, myself, I've been here for over 20 years, and going to Ghana, it's not going to be the same thing. I went to boarding school and everything, but it's a completely different whole world now. So we're gonna have a conversation again. Hopefully I might be able to pull some strings and get Jackie to host that one as well, because I want to enjoy that too. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us, and we'll catch you, and let's catch up on the platform. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.